think we've dumbed motherhood down in this country. And so women don't want to associate, like it doesn't feel complex enough or interesting enough when what we know about motherhood is it's like deeply emotional, deeply intellectual. And so the power pause is language I offer, reclaiming the power in a pause.
Take the power pause and come back stronger.
Right. I'm actively choosing right now. I get to focus on this and I'm letting go. I accept it's a long game.
My guest is Neha Ruch. She's the author of The Power Pause. She paused her career for parenthood. And today she shares why stepping away from your job may not be career suicide, it may be strategic. Why the most ambitious thing you can do might be choosing what matters most right now.
The two words that gave me so much power, and I tell everyone, is right now. We're making an empowered choice. Right now, I get to be with my kids. Making sure you feel like you're moving yourself forward is getting really intentional about the fact that you will grow alongside your children.
Why isn't everyone taking a power pause?
You know, I was listening to you and thinking,
I'm so grateful already that you exist. Like just in the few minutes that I've gotten to know you, I love your depth of presence. I love your boundaries. I love the soft, easy confidence with which you state your boundaries. It's already such amazing medicine for me. And I'm realizing that this is part of your transmission, that like who you are as a person is this soft, easy, not soft boundary, but like a gentle, easy to state boundary that you are respecting. And then it makes me want to respect it. And it feels like this is also part of your dharma and part of what you're communicating with this power pause. I'm like, I can state a boundary of what I desire as far as motherhood and my career. And I get to choose. I get to choose what that is. I don't have to be a full-time mom and a full-time professional simultaneously if I don't want to. And so I just want to take a minute to celebrate you for that, the simplicity of that, the power of that, and how revolutionary that can be. I know that for myself, and which we'll get into as we go, there's a lot of certainly internalized patriarchy, certainly internalized capitalism, and on top of that, like a whole lineage of what I would call wounded feminine, of like the women who are the providers, the primary caretakers, the breadwinners, and it's something I'm currently transcending, like doing an extraordinary amount of work to integrate and heal so that I can be boundaried enough to take my own version of a power pause. And so thank you for leading by example. But I guess for people who who have not read your book yet, for people who are learning of this idea, like why would anyone even want to take a power pause and what is it?
You know, I was listening to you and thinking, you made it sound so beautiful. And for me, I spent a lifetime trying so hard that when I finally realized I didn't have to try so hard to be anything else, then I never wanted to go back. You know, and I think so much of the choices we make, if they're done through the filter of like, is this for other people or is this for me? That can be a real gift, right?
That's already, okay, so am I making this decision for other people or for myself?
Right.
Okay.
And so the power pause is language I offer in lieu of sort of the old tropes around the stay-at-home mother, right? Whenever anyone, especially women, took their foot off the gas work-wise, we assigned her this label that felt very shut in, very anti-feminist, very traditionalist, very in servitude to other people. And that was sort of the perception. So when I did that, or other women consider doing that, there's so much shame. And instead, the power pause is this idea that if you choose to shift time, energy, focus away from work of paid work, to make more room for your health, mental or physical, for elder care, for child care, as was my case, as was the case of many women who are reading the book and part of the movement, actually, you can expand your interests, expand your network, expand your sense of self, so that when and if you re-enter paid work or whatever other pursuit, you're actually coming back stronger.
So interesting, because as I was reading about you and reading your bio, it was like, oh, that frame, like in my mind, I was like, oh, this is great marketing language, where it's like, it's meeting people where they are, like take the power, pause, and come back stronger.
Right.
Right. And this
Right.
is what I did with meditation, right? Like I built a whole career on meditation for extraordinary performance. It's like, hey, this thing is going to help you have better sex and make more money, kind of as the candy coating to put on the medicine.
Yes.
To get people to just take the fucking medicine. And I feel that in your write-up of the power pause, it's like you're meeting people where they are, of like, take this pause and come back stronger.
Well, it's funny you should say that. That was the original subtitle on the book. I don't know if I've shared this before, but it was really much more about how when you take that time, you can walk through it with confidence. You can walk through it with more ease and support. You can unlock possibility of it. But it was much more about that moment. And the publishers felt really strongly about including come back stronger than ever.
Yeah. I mean, it's
and
smart.
I think you're right. It's about sort of meeting culture where it was, that no one ever could say that this was a lure to women to just sit in a pause. You know, it was much more about how does this fit into this constant long game of work and family. And it's a bit of both and. But it's interesting. I hadn't realized that until you said that.
Yeah. But I mean, I resonated with it because certainly I am very much still in this simultaneity where I am, you know, full-time, sometimes single momming and CEO of my company. And I'm 7 years in. My son is 7. And, oh, it makes me want to cry. Like, I'm tired. I'm tired. And I miss my son. And it's just recently, actually, Deborah Silverman was sitting in that chair. She's an amazing astrologer. And she was looking at my chart. And she was like, Emily, like, you are here to be a mother. It is all over your chart. Like, this is your dharma. This is your big mission. Like, this is your number one thing that your soul's here to do, is be a mother. Yeah. And it was so fascinating to hear that, because I've never identified as like mother first. Like, I fucking love being a mom, and I have an amazing son, and I'm a great mother. And like, when I'm with him, I'm with him. And I co-parent, you know, so it's an interesting, like, 1 week on, 1 week off. But it wasn't until she said that, like, oh, like, this is like bigger than the hundreds of thousands of people I've taught to meditate, books, all the, like, I have these huge dreams of like the planet. And she's like, motherhood, this one human needs all of you right now. Wow. And it really flipped for me. Like, it made me highlight the way I had been prioritizing parenthood. And so I've actually been like really giving some consideration to, all right, well, I have like 5-6 more years, right, where my son is like deep in mommy mode, you know? And because then he's going to be like, you know, soon he's going to be like with car and iPads and girlfriends or boyfriends or who knows. But so I've just been giving some thought to, like, how can I take my own version of a power pause, or how do I restructure things to make more space for him? So I'm curious, like, what how do you work with people? Do you work exclusively with women? Like, do you have any, I mean, normally I say this for the end of like, will you just like coach me on this? But if you were to talk to me right now, like, how would you even help me to start a version of a power pause for myself?
You know, yes, mostly women. So our community is, you know, just under 300,000 women.
Amazing.
And it's women who maybe 10% are working currently full-time in their traditional role and just trying to create more boundaries within their role so that and then 40% are fully on a pause. And then a number are still in what I call the gray area, which is really a big part of this work, is blurring the edges between these old ideas of stay at home and working mother, right? Like these binary black and white ideas that make us feel like either we're fully sacrificing ourselves at the temple of motherhood, or we're fully sacrificing our children, as opposed to like, what does your current blend look like? And I think when you run your own business and you have such a skill and you've built a platform, you have this unique opportunity to set the pace. And I think that can be a blessing and a burden, right? The blessing is there's that autonomy and self-direction. The burden is it's a choice. And I think sometimes when then you feel like you're not doing something, you know, you just have to go through that recalibration on an ongoing basis because it's not set.
Wait,
But
say it again. Like, why is the choice a burden?
Because you're constantly making it. It's every day, right?
Like I could just work. There's like an infinite amount of work.
Yeah.
Or I could just...
you have time. You
I
could
could
just be at home.
I'm not going in today.
So instead, you think about, well, what am I optimizing for this season? Mm-hmm. And you try not to make it about the next 6 years with him. Mm-hmm. And you try and think about it as, okay, I'm in the spring. Or because spring, a 7-year-old's a second grader, right? Or first. Their rhythm at school is very different in the spring as it is over the summer, as it is over the fall. And in a way, that's a blessing, right? Because it forces you to recalibrate. Mm-hmm. So how might you think about, wow, this is your own business. How might you align with the season he's in, the season you're in, and think about, am I optimizing for time or am I optimizing for headspace? Am I optimizing for more activity or more time at home? And I think then, because it's a very different decision you're making if it's for hours versus headspace, right? Headspace, you might let go of projects that are giving you a lot of stress and taking away from the time that you're with him. Mm-hmm. Versus if it's hours, you may change up your schedule such that you're packing in 2 days and you're home 3 days, that you're getting him off the bus, right? Like, so you see how I'm thinking about it, that it's making room for family doesn't have to look exactly the same. It's making room for what's important to you and how you show up with your son and how you connect with your son. And I want to say that this book was never to say that career pauses was the right, or making room for family was the right choice for every family. There's so much research to show that your career impacts your children's zilch. Presence is found not in the hours you spend with your child, but how you show up in those hours. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's important for you to, sit with. Yeah. Because then it opens up what you're optimizing for.
And like that I have in droves. I mean, thank you, 16 years of Ziva meditation. Like when I'm with him, like I am with him. There. And occasionally I get the phone to put on music or order food or, like I can't say I'm never on my phone, but it's like for a purpose. But I'm really like with him. And I feel proud of that. I feel proud of my lifetime of work to give him like the amount of presence that I do when I'm with him. And also it's precious. Like when you're co-parenting, it's like I don't have him all the time. So it's like this, it's like in when you're first dating someone, if you have like a date and you don't see them for 2 weeks, you're like, it's so exciting to get to see them again. And he changes so quickly that it's like this constant, they said that Michelangelo's greatest piece of art was meant to have been in ice. You heard this? Like better than the David, better than the Pietà. He said that his magnum opus was a sculpture that he did out of ice. And then it's just gone. And I feel like our children are like that. They're just changing so quickly that, them at 4 is just gone. And then even as a parent, like your greatest sculpture, your greatest thing, the temple of motherhood, as you said, is this thing. And then they turn into adults. And so it's like, even though the seeds are there, it has morphed into another thing.
Yes. But the, one thing that you just said, which is this sort of seasonality of it, like that they're constantly changing, that you're doing this for, is actually the gift of, when we're talking about the blessing and burden, I think the 2 words that gave me so much power, and I tell everyone, is right now. Right? Like, right now. So you might say, I want more time with him. I want this. So I'm going to let go of these 3 projects that are really important, but I'm going to let go of them for right now. Yeah. Because I want to focus on, having afternoons with him, and we'll see what comes next. Yeah. Right. The right now, the seasonality. I think that's one of the gifts of watching your children grow. Is it's like, I remember thinking the most magical thing in the world was those first 2 years, because the growth is just so tremendous month over month. And it's the only time you can see a whole year visualized in front of you. Yeah. Like what a year of life looks like.
Take a nap and wake up and they're taller or smarter.
Right. And you see what time looks like. And then you realize time is fleeting and time passes. And so with that, how can we hold it a little bit more lightly? I think this sense of this fear of the scarcity mindset that we're all, if we don't do everything now, then what? But and by the way, right now doesn't have to apply only when you're making room for family. I think when I was on the book tour in sort of the fall leading up to it, ironically, I was less with my children than ever before, right? And after 10 years of really being with them, but even they trusted it because I used the language with them. I said, for this season, I'm going to see this thing out into the world, and it's going to mean I'm not at after school pickups. And for me, presence is going to be at dinner time and in homework time, because by the way, they do need you in a different way, even when they're not as squishy. And then we're going to see what comes next. We're all going to recalibrate together in March. Mm-hmm. And they held that this is for right now. And so, right now allowed me to go through that sprint, not feeling like, oh, this is the end of my motherhood. This is it. I'm giving up. It was just for that chapter.
Oh, it's so good. And I can feel how it assuages the guilt, because it's something that I have danced with, and I hear from so many parents and mothers of this idea that, and certainly entrepreneurs, that, okay, well, if I'm with my company, I feel guilty because I'm not with my child. And when I'm with my child, I feel guilty because I'm not with my company.
Right.
And it can be this constant thing that's just eating at you. And to your point of the headspace of what are you optimizing for? And this might be highlighting a place where I can be better with boundaries and just making the decision and committing to it. But I have, and this would be, I think, a blessing and a curse, if I have a very high capacity. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And sometimes I can do it. You know what I mean? I was I can do this, run these 10 projects, run this company, be the only teacher, and be an amazing mom. And I can do that for a minute. But I can't do it for 7 years. I can't do it for 18 years. It's too much simultaneously. And so it's I can see the beauty and the profundity of this work, of even if the shift, even if nothing logistical changed, that just that boundary of right now, mentally, energetically, physically, spiritually, I'm with my son. Mm-hmm, there's no mental loops. There's no guilt. There's no shame. There's no nothing that goes to the company. Even that would be a reclamation.
Yes.
And conversely, if I'm at work, I'm fully at work. Yesterday, my son was homesick from camp. And he's in spring break, so he's supposed to be in camp, and then he got sick, and I had a full day of meetings.
Of course you did, naturally.
And he's just running into the room on the Zooms in his underwear, comes and sits in my lap, farts immediately, making jokes. And thankfully, my team is they think it's funny. It's not all the time. But I was really straddling, and there was a moment I was supposed to be in 2 meetings at the same time, and my son was like, "Mommy, now play with me." And I was just in this straddle, and I was like, okay. And it was fine for a day. You know what I mean? For a day, it can be cute and funny. But I think about people who did it through the pandemic and did it for years.
Well, in a way, that was what, I think that really, timing is everything. I really believe in that. And, in the years I was fully at home with my kids, planting seeds for this work, I would have moments of looking around and being but I know this is a big idea. And it's not, because then there was an irony of building this platform, reclaiming the power in a pause while being on a pause, right? So I was I can't grow. I'm actively choosing. So back then it was, right now, I get to focus on this, and I'm letting go. I accept it's a long game, and I'm letting go of, this, and this. The pandemic happened, and I think the world was forced to recognize sort of the immensity of family life. Right? We finally couldn't just put it in a box. We had to look at, something has to give. These are real children. These are real families. They're squashed together, and there need to be more options on the table for women to make it work, because it is real work. I think it's real work. I think when we sometimes, you were saying earlier, that you never thought of yourself as just mother first, right? And I think I was in a different recording, and someone was saying, when mother comes up, I would find myself resisting. This was her words. She found herself resisting easing into it. She was the softness of it. And I think we've dumbed motherhood down in this country to diapers and laundry. And so women don't want to associate, it doesn't feel complex enough or interesting enough, when what we know about motherhood is it's deeply emotional, deeply intellectual work it's awe-inspiring work if you really allow it to be, meeting someone where they are, changing the way you communicate things and empathize with things and break down these world concepts to these little people.
Yeah.
And then when you sort of hold it like that, and when the world has to look at that, then you're like, oh, this actually takes like time.
Time, emotional intelligence, spiritual dexterity, presence.
Work, inner work. In the case of, someone like a lot of people who are sort of re-healing.
Yeah, and like so many of us want to be the chain breakers, right? Like we don't want to just pass down mindlessly and unconsciously the trauma that we inherited, whatever flavor that may be from our particular lineage. And it takes time and work and often resources to do that in a way that is sustainable. This a little bit gets into why isn't everyone taking a power pause? Yeah. And I just think this is such a complex and broad issue because it brings up misogyny, it brings up patriarchy, it brings up the flaws of capitalism, like even outside of an individual choice. How is one person making an individual choice when they are swimming in ideologies that, like, why was that woman who was interviewing you having like an adverse reaction to the softness of motherhood? Right. If not the fact that she was, and I don't know, but my assumption would be some level of societal misogyny and patriarchy. That it's like, well, we don't value what isn't making a ton of money. And doesn't give you a ton of external power. And so how do we reclaim the power and how do we value it for ourselves?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of this comes from a culture where we ask, what do you do, as the first question in a party, right? Or on the, if you walk down the street, that's what someone's going to say is the way of getting to know you.
Yeah.
And it has come to stand in for who are you?
It's like our identity is what we do, how we make money.
How we make money. And we get really used to it. We get, you spend your 20s, your 30s, you're like climbing and really wanting to prove to the world your worth and your sense of belonging, where that's what we're all looking for. That was certainly what I was looking for. And so I was very comfortable answering that question. I run brand at a tech company. It signals I'm in a leadership, brands, creative, tech startup. So we use these words to sort of
proud of it.
Convey our, attributes when really, if you think about it, it's actually not really what makes me who I am, but that's your identity. And we feel like we don't have space as soon as we don't have a pithy response to that. And so women especially really fear, after needing and wanting to take space for so long and having so much of our worth wrapped up in that, our ambition, our feminism wrapped up in that, then for all the reasons that I talk about in the book, stay-at-home mom falls flat, right? Like even the words are antiquated, like stagnant. It's like shut in. Home. Like, yeah, it's not. So, I really think about, well, how can we give women back a sense of, again, this like right now, like this is a chapter. We're making an empowered choice. Right now, I get to be with my kids. We'll see what comes next. You don't have to answer. Like that's what you're actually doing. You're raising your kids. And or you're working on I get to be with my kids and I'm working on a project about work and family on the side, right? Like allowing yourself to part with the pithy title and know that this is also one layer of your identity. Like if you were to take a full pause, and by the way, you have made shifts. You parted with Broadway for a time. Those skills, those accomplishments went with you, right? They went with you into meditation. Then you layered meditation. Now motherhood is another layer, right? When you lean into these different chapters of focus, it doesn't eradicate all those other pieces. You can still be a 10-year brand marketer, that goes with you. You're just layering on another piece. I think that gives women a real sense of we bring with us what we want from those previous chapters. And when we pause or we shift, we're making room for, and I think that's the big part, we're making room for ourselves to grow intentionally alongside our children.
We're making room to grow intentionally alongside our children. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. I have 85 things I want to say all at once.
Great. Say one. Say one.
Okay, I'm going to say one. I went on a retreat last week, and it was 7 days. And I was mentioning this before we started recording. And it was like deep, embodied inner child work, and it was about relating. So there's no medicine, there's no sex, which is unusual for me. I really like sex and drugs, especially in like ceremonial type healing settings.
Yeah,
and
I like that caveat. Go on.
But this was weird. It was like 7 days sober, and I was like, okay, what's gonna happen?
Yeah.
And it was wildly healing, wildly psychedelic. But it was all about relating. And what was very surprising to me was how much embodied inner child work was coming up. And this type of work, it's called Sapience. It's amazing. And I won't try to speak to it because it's too confounding, but I will say that the theme for almost everyone in the workshop was some flavor of their inner child, either their infancy, their toddler, their teen years, and either they're embodying it themselves, or in my case, this woman, this brilliant facilitator, basically embodied little Emily. And I got to take care of and nourish and love and communicate with an externalized version of my own inner child, which was so healing. And the thing that really, she just wanted me to feel her, because I was trying to intellectualize it. And she's like, just feel me. And the way that I was able to do it was by tuning into my son. Right? I was imagining my son and how much he must miss me when we're away from each other for a week, which happens every other week. And this little Emily was like saying that she just missed me, that she just wanted to connect with me more. And so I'm just so fascinated to see, like, is part of our avoidance of fully committing to parenthood, fully committing to being with our children, perhaps a way that we're actually avoiding being with our inner children, like avoiding feeling the feelings that we were taught were bad or too much or too loud as we were growing up. And this is sort of just formulating in real time, but when I'm really with my son, like I have to inhabit my inner 6-year-old sometimes, you know? And that is something I had to grow up really quickly. You know, like little Emily got parentalized very early. And so she like got put away. And so it's like I'm getting to reform my relationship with little Emily while I'm connecting with my son. But that was not what I was going to say. The other thing about the retreat, and then I'm handing you the microphone.
Yeah. No. I love this. Keep going.
Is that so many people there were being held like babies. Like they would go, you would see themselves like drop down into this almost pre-verbal state. Something would happen in the room. They would feel triggered. They would just go into like fetal position. And then one of the facilitators or someone else would come and hold them like a baby for hours and hours and hours, sometimes days. These people would let themselves feel held. And that was amazing, the bravery of letting yourself feel held. But what was more astounding was the presence that these facilitators had as they were holding an adult, a grown-ass adult, for hours, sometimes days, of just being held. You know, of course, they would take lunch breaks, dinner breaks, sleep breaks, but they would come back in session and hold them. And it was like they were channeling this cosmic mother. And they were bringing all of themselves to the holding. And it has changed already the way that I parent. Like I said, my son was sick the other day and he came in my room, and instead of being like, God, go to sleep. Oh, I have a big work day tomorrow. We've just got to go to bed. Just take the Tylenol and shut up. Like sort of, even if I'm not saying that, I'm feeling that, right? If I'm stressed out. But I was just like, no, I am going to bring all of me to holding him. And every cell of my body, I want it vibrating with the frequency of love. I'm going to channel the divine cosmic mother so that he can feel held not just by me, but by a whole lineage of mothers holding him. And he was like, Mommy, it changed. He was like, Mommy, will you please keep sleeping with me? Mommy, can I have another sleepover? Mommy, let's please cuddle more. Like he was like, it was like a drug. He was like, please give it to me, give it to me. And he like woke up better. Like he was, it was wild. And it was such a gift for both of us. And I'm just thinking like this work of taking a power pause. If you don't have 8 board meetings the next day and 5 presentations and a pitch and commuting and all of this other stuff, like you can afford to be there fully when your kid is sick, or to do morning snuggles, or to hold them when they're sad because their best friend said that they were stupid, or whatever it is. And it's like how much of the trauma that we're unwinding as adults could be not ever created if we prioritized parenthood in a different way by taking this beautiful sacred pause.
You said so much there, and one of the things you led with was how much do we avoid parenthood because it challenges us in a different way, which I think is right. I think.
And like avoiding our own inner children.
Yeah, I think that we, one of the ways I talk about it in the book is making sure you feel like you're moving yourself forward is getting really intentional about the fact that you will grow alongside your children. I think when you realize that, when you step in and you say, I'm going to make room for this, it's not, I'm going to make room to raise the most well-behaved children, or I'm like, my new success is going to be like how happy they are. We all know that's just
one flavor.
That's just flawed. Versus I'm going to be there and I'm going to grow. And I think when you say, I'm going to grow, of course you can say, I'm going to let myself explore some things I've wanted to create. Like I talk about, those creative goals. I talk about family goals. For me, it was like, I want a silly household. I want to have a dance party every Monday. So that's actually the only time we dance is in the mornings on Mondays with my kids, because I want them to feel that. But on a personal goal, it was, I want to heal my reactivity. I want to heal because I want
the silliness is a way for you to heal reactivity.
No, that was just like a family value. Like if I think about goals in 3: professional, personal, professional being creative, personal, and family, right? It's a way of keeping, and it can be small. It can be small when you're at home with 2 kids, 4 and 2. It's a way of thinking yourself like, I'm going to keep myself moving forward in these little ways. And it can be a dance party every single Monday. It can be 3 blog posts a week. It can be, I'm going to listen to a podcast about women and anger once a week, right? But it's facing that I have areas that I need to grow, and your children will be the biggest motivation to grow. More than anyone in a board meeting, more than anyone in an office, because like it just, the stakes are less high there.
Yeah.
Your children, like the first time I yelled at my son, right? Like really yelled. I remember thinking like, I never want to feel that way again.
Yeah.
And having to face that and sit with that and want to do better, like that is uncomfortable. That does take digging. Or as he got older and really realized like, oh, all of that stuff around belonging, he doesn't actually have that. Like he doesn't have this worry that his skin is darker and ever he may not fit. So why am I putting that on him? Right? Like those things are deep and they don't come up in any other context besides in my home with my children. And so I do think that we don't necessarily consciously avoid it, but we recognize it's big, deep work. At the same time, the world is telling us it's not. So then we're in this catch-22 of, if I go and do that, the world isn't going to think of me in high regard. And yet I'm going to be working harder than I've ever worked. So then why do it? And so that's an interesting moment of at least this thing there. I can sort of exhibit all my external, my gifts, be praised and rewarded for it. Whereas that thing, that work that is unpaid, unrespected, unacknowledged, right? Like the late in the night Googling of like, does my child have this? How do I deal? Like that's the real work. I'm like, no one sees it. And it's going to challenge me more than ever before.
Oh, I've never heard anyone say this like this. This feels really profound. Like, why on earth would I prioritize doing the hardest, deepest, scariest job, thankless job, internal and external, both hours-wise, labor-wise, creativity-wise, and facing my own deepest, darkest internal demons, which is like karmically why we incarnated and they incarnated, right? Is to learn these lessons. And when I could be doing something externally that's going to be like rewarded, validated, financially compensated, like to really choose one over the other is fucking valiant.
Yeah. It's bold. It's a bold, when people make that choice, I always say congratulations, because like you tuned in to a choice that felt right to you right now. You trusted yourself and your career, and you trusted all of it. You trusted the long game.
I like the long game.
Oh, I love the long game because
So good.
it takes so much pressure off. It takes so much pressure off of right now.
Yeah. So why isn't everyone taking a power pause? Did we just answer it? Is it because of validation?
I think, well, there's a number. I mean, data wise, right? It's 1 in 3 women feel forced to choose to pause because of the cost of childcare. So I want to also acknowledge that for some women, it's not a choice. And by the way, sometimes it's not a choice to pause, right? Because you can't forego the income. So the privilege is to get to choose. Once we own that,
Yeah.
then like if you have the privilege to choose, it's our identity in our work, our sense of independence, our fear that we're going to lose our place often. And I think a lot of this work is to help mitigate that risk, right? And going back to the subtitle, I did have to hold that reality that for many women, they fear not being able to return to the workforce. So how do we not only shine a light on how this stage of life you can approach it with a sense of a growth and being open to that growth, but also with a little bit of strategy as to how to do that in a world that still is never going to ask you when you go return. They're not going to say, like, tell me about all your profound growth experiences alongside parenthood. Like, that's not going to happen. So there's a bit of balance of.
But what if, look, you're starting this movement. Like, what if we do start that movement? Like, what if on the resume, it's like, what are the quote unquote soft skills that you have developed from running a household, from being emotionally intelligent with your parents? With your kids. Like I manage a 10-person team, and when I'm talking to my COO, it's like, we have to treat this. She's a mother as well, and I'm like, this is not unlike parenting. It's like the skills that we have developed from parenting. Like we very much bring that in. I'm like, yeah, Jasper wants to eat lollipops for breakfast, and I don't let him. The team wants to have raises with no KPIs. No.
Well, I think it's also the deepest. I will tell you, I don't even know if I've returned, right? Like I've found a new version of a blend in that sort of vast gray area, right? And I may shift back. That's what we want. We want women to be able to dial up, dial down without shame, without penalty, without, and that's what I want out of this work. It's not to say that power pauses are the be all end all and that it's to say that if we can dignify time away from paid work, then women have that choice available without shame and penalty. Then we sort of have a much more fluid narrative, and that's what we want. But I do agree. I think that a lot of this work is, even if you do nothing else, right? Even if you don't, and I tell women, like, write in great detail when you step into your pause, who you want to be in 5 years, what you want to be spending time on, who you want to be with, how you feel in your mind, how you feel in your body, what your house feels like, what your relationship with your kids feels like. Not because you're going to teleport into that person tomorrow, but because it reveals your true, authentic measures of success. Right? And you give yourself that freedom when you part with a path.
When you what?
Part with any path, like part with a traditional work path. When someone's been like, this is what your KPIs are, then you get to come up with your own, and then you start optimizing this time to grow in that way, and you stay open. But even if you did none of that, your empathy, your communication, your organization, like what you just said, maybe you do give your son lollipops in the morning because you're like, you know what, that's the low hanging.
I did do that this morning.
Yeah, that's the low hanging fruit. I'm going to give on that so I can get on this. And this idea of perspective, right? Like that becomes your superpower in your work of like what really matters.
Yeah, what really matters.
Because I think that as I've sort of gone through this sprint work-wise has been, I've been thinking, how do I sleep so well? And I realized, because over those years at home, I developed a really clear sense of what really matters. And as long as I get to go home to those little people and I get to do a little bit of work that matters alongside that, I'm solid. I'm good. And that becomes this muscle that I would never have had before.
So when you were brand managing and you were in your full professional career, like you didn't have that, like that was not what really matters. That wasn't part of your MO.
No, I was like very shaken by like if someone, insulted me, I would like lose sleep I was very affected by, I grew up in a very predominantly white town. I immigrated here from India when I was 3, and I have my closest girlfriends from home are still from that town. So this is not about the town. It's about the fact that I was always trying to find my place. And then that became my work and professional, in my professional identity, that became my safe place. But anything rattled my sense of safety, And so I was constantly, and it wasn't until I was rocking with my son, he was maybe 4 months old, and I'm not to say it was like, I was like milk drenched and very sleepy, and I'd reach the ends of the internet on my phone, you know? And I felt a sense of peace I hadn't felt. I felt this sense of, oh, I belong. I don't need to be anyone besides who I am. And that was what I really chose to make room for when I paused my career. I didn't pause because I thought that like, oh, that's going to be a better outcome for my child. I wanted that time, but I wanted more time discovering this new version of myself.
So honest, so beautiful. And the thing that bears saying is like, obviously the better version of you, of course your kids are going to be
and that is
happier,
the goal line, right?
Healthier. Yeah. And it's like, you hear people say all the time, like, I would die for my children. I'd do anything for my children. I'm like, cool. Would you get happy for them? Would you go to therapy for them? Would you meditate for them? Would you feel your feelings for them? Because the martyrdom shit is old.
It's old.
It is old. Not working.
Well, and it's this sad false belief that we have to struggle through. No one gives you badges for it at the end of the day. And I had to learn that. I had to learn that like there was no, and by the way, the other people in our life, I think help is like a very flawed conversation in this culture.
Help? What do you mean?
Like having help to raise our children.
Like a nanny or...
A nanny, a babysitter, a food prep service. It doesn't have to be full-time daycare or nothing, right? It can be I've gone through 2 days a week of babysitting. I've had afternoon. Now I have an afternoon babysitter. I've gone through no help, which was flawed, you know. And I think we punish women for privilege. If we ask women to be honest about how they're doing it, and they say, oh, I have help, then they say, well, she has help. That's how she's able to do it. And then everyone hides it. They hide the sort of help on there as part of their very realistic equation of how it's all working.
Yeah.
And so then everyone thinks you're supposed to do it by yourself.
Yeah.
And then we think, well, we're supposed to, the tougher we are, the more alone we are, the more we struggle through it, the better we are.
Yeah. We're
in the
get more
sort of
badges.
Ideal portrait that we sort of put together of what the ideal mother is. But it's because of the invisible nannies of Instagram, right? Like no one's showing them.
What's that mean, the invisible nannies of Instagram?
I think it was actually a great headline from an article written by Lauren Smith Brody in Harper's Bazaar. So that line is not mine. I'm big on credit. Where she said, when we're all you scrolling social media and we're collecting insight into how motherhood looks and feels, no one's showing their childcare or their home care or their food care or the grandparents that are coming in or the partner who's at home, or has a flexible role. So we're not putting together an appropriate and realistic version of how parenthood goes. And it's not to say everyone needs to go broadcast that, but it is to say we should all assume that everyone's operating in their own ecosystems where they're prioritizing something or dropping something, letting go of some expectations.
Whether there's some level
leaning
of team
on something.
or village. Yeah. I think there's some likely racism there too, because oftentimes the people who are doing the food prep or the nannying position are like not white, and so then there's like this, I think there's like white guilt or this shame, and so it's like this is so layered with race, layered. With misogyny, with patriarchy. It's just like, and then it's just, oh wow. And I remember having those questions because my nanny was a huge part of our life for 5 years, full time, 50 hours a week, and amazing, and we would travel together and we would take all these photos together. And I remember I would sometimes pause before posting, and I was like. And I think it was for nothing else. Like, I don't see other people doing this. And I was like, fuck that. I was like, she's a part of my family. Like, this is like a huge part of like my son's childhood. And like right now, my mom, my son's grandma, flew up for the week because he's on spring break and he's out at 3 p.m. And I have someone like at home going grocery shopping and meal prepping right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, and here we are. And that is what is affording me to come here and make this
and
podcast.
do work that you care about. And I think the more women, but it's interesting because the more women talk about it, you just have to, I think our culture isn't conditioned to hear it. So there's immediate critique, like there's a critique that happens. Well, that's not the norm. But like, is it not the norm? Or is it that we're not all talking about the different resources and we have to create a more realistic portrait of what life looks like so that women can, maybe they can't afford, like I have a cleaning person who comes, I took my one day of housekeeping and I divvied it up over 5 days. So she comes every morning to reset my home.
Great.
It's brilliant. And I know not everyone can afford that. And if I say that I have that, maybe someone can think about what they can either lean on, what's available to them, or they might think, oh, that's how she's doing it. I can lower the expectations of what's possible.
Yeah.
Because I think our expectations are so high of ourselves in every capacity without full context.
Yeah. And that it's the expectation which can create the guilt and the shame.
Yes.
And then like I'm failing. And that sense of failing can create the martyrdom and the overworking and the violating your own boundaries. So even if you're like, okay, well, I can't afford a cleaning person every day. Well, what can, like, maybe that's my kids are 10 now. Great, cool. They're doing chores, like they're doing that. I'm not doing that.
Or my partner.
Or my neighbors. We're going to get together and you do dinner on Thursday. I do dinner on Friday. Like this idea of community, it doesn't all have to be paid. It can be delegated with community, which is how we used to be living.
Yeah.
When we were a bit more tribal.
Or you lower the standard.
Yeah.
Right? If you don't have paid help, lower the standard. Meaning like during those seasons I mentioned that we did go through without, I would have my husband would wake up in the mornings with the kids. And so I would get 2 hours to do sort of my thing, an hour and a half. And then I was doing like a lot of frozen foods for meals and not cleaning the house till like we were cleaning together at the end of the day. And so like things had to give. It wasn't pristine.
Yeah.
Because this sort of like, oh, if I'm going to pause my paid work, then I have to do everything to account for my worth. Is a really real faulty trap that many women fall into.
So I'm feeling this like nouveau movement right now, kind of adjacent to the like Maha, the like Austin, sacred feminine, sacred masculine. I don't know how like tapped in you are to these communities. But there's this like kind of like ultra masculine Maha movement, like RFK, like we're in our king, we're in our power, like we're men. And then like complementary to that, there is this like divine feminine. I'm a goddess. I'm reclaiming my maternal instincts. I'm reclaiming my femininity. I don't want to be a power boss anymore. I don't want to be like a boss bitch anymore.
Oh, the trad wife movement.
The what?
The trad wife movement.
What's that?
And it's not a movement, so I don't even want to give it that clout, but keep going.
Trad wife?
Yeah, which I would it's very sad because it's actually antithetical in some ways, but it has been brought up as to how this fits in. It was considered like a very conservative ideology that like cropped up where like these homemakers in sort of the middle of the country were sharing their content using the hashtag tradwife. So that's what I always
What is trad?
Traditional wife.
Oh.
And using this hashtag, which I always underscore is a hashtag. It's not a movement. It's not a reality of the majority of women. And, they're baking sourdough. They're wearing aprons. They talk about domestic bliss. I always remind everyone these people made money off of it. Like they found beautiful imagery that resonates in a world where people are probably drawn to simplicity and homesteading. It does not mean we're like all reversing back to yesteryear and then like to the like saying uncle to the patriarchy. And it has come up a lot because people will say, well, are you in some way suggesting women go back home? And I'm saying, absolutely not am I saying that. I'm saying that motherhood is a realistic part of many women's lives. And it's demanding and it's intensive. And some women have a very valid want to make room for it for different chapters. And we need to be able to elevate it and realize that women can enjoy it, can grow from it, need support with it so that they have more options on the other side.
Yeah.
Right.
And I want to really celebrate the level of nuance and specificity with which you articulate because I think it can get oversimplified. And in a world where we're talking about like making America great again, there is this like look backwards, right? Which in the Vedas or in the meditation world, we would call that like, most people are in the I'll be happy when syndrome. Like, I'll be happy when my kids are grown. I'll be happy when I have more money. I'll be happy when I have a nanny. I'll be happy when I retire, like whatever the success and the happiness is in the future. But older people have an illusion that the success is in the past, right? So anytime we're talking about going backwards for our happiness, like nature does not work that way. Like it is only always evolving, expanding, creating. We are only always moving forward. So for both are an illusion, but especially going back is an illusion. And so it's just a tricky, delicate balance in a world where legitimately married women are having like voting rights taken away, like right now
and
in
other
2025, and other rights, right? That it's like a tricky balance, because it could be sort of perceived as, oh, the power pause, you had kids, get your ass at home.
Yeah.
And like, that's not at all what you're saying. It's like, clarify what is your reality, which is very much manifesting, right? You're like, you decide.
And it's also, I've heard you say feminine and feminism a couple times, and I want to talk about how feminism for a long time was proving our capacity in the workforce. But, you know, one way we can think about this next version is also now making it work for our reality as women.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the work we created, we said we're equal to men. We're not, we're very different. We are literally wired differently. We go through different experiences. And how might we now say, you know, we were so scared to admit those things, right? Women would go eat. My friends would go, I'm sure your friends would go hide across at the hotel across the street to pump, because there were no, you know, that wasn't sort of encouraged or made space for. And so there's this coming out of like, no, these are realities of our women in menopause, right? Like, how might we talk about these things as like a reality of our lives, so that now we can say we need work that works for us better.
And part of that is like the societal integration and deconstruction of patriarchy, which is not serving men or women. Right. It's not good for anyone. It's not like, oh, patriarchy, men win. It's like, no, patriarchy, you get exhausted, depleted women who don't have a sense of self-worth, and their sex drive is not there, and they don't feel safe.
Right.
That's not a win for any gender, right?
No.
Like, it's not a win for men either. So it's just like letting go of this idea that in patriarchy somehow men are winning. And if we can dissolve that, then it's like, whatever your gender, whatever your superpowers as a human can be integrated and celebrated and part of the way that you work. Like I have all women actually that work with me at Ziva.
Yeah, same.
Which is something I desire to diversify. I am craving more men. I'm craving more masculine. I am personally craving feeling more containment, more holding, more decisiveness, more forward motion for me personally. And a lot of them are mothers. And so we've navigated this professionally for 16 years as a company, intricately. And sometimes it's really great because like where oftentimes the old view of hiring a woman who's in her reproductive years is seen as a liability because maternity leave, and are they going to want to come back to work, and are they going to take off of work at 3 p.m. And then whereas like my employees would be like, yeah, I'm not working after 3, and then I'll get back online at 9. And I was like, cool, that's actually, I get back online at 9 too after my son goes to sleep, so perfect. See you then. And so it's just like, one's not good or bad. It's just, what do you desire for your optimal style of working, and then what works for that particular ecosystem of the company.
Well, it's so funny you say that. One of the things I think a lot about is how this next phase for women is actually creating our own like opportunities and options, right? I see it with and I have a much smaller team. I have 5 women who work a cumulative 10 hours a week each, right? Cool. So they're all fractional. They all have young kids. And very similarly, I made that conscious choice, and I hired a full-time person who was younger and more available, and they didn't work at the same level I expected them to, because those 5 women, right, bring a level of expertise and experience and efficiency that is gained by their age, their motherhood experience, their perspective. And so
And like get shit done. It's
they
like,
get shit
wanna
done.
be
They
with my
know
kids,
how
so
to
I'm going to execute in these 10 hours.
100%. 100%. And I think I see that happening now. I don't think I'm unique in that. And so we see this new wave of whenever women are returning to work, I will often say, look for small to medium businesses run by other women because they will value your time in a different way. They will understand flexibility because to them, it helps their P&L too. Like it helps their business too to have someone part-time.
Yeah.
And they know they're getting best in class talent. And they will respect when you say you have to sign off at 3 and turn back on at 9. They will know that doesn't actually impact the quality of your work. So I find that new sort of female ecosystem really fascinating.
And it just feels like a win-win-win where it's like the kids are winning, right? Because they have a parent at home. And then the parent is winning because they get to spend time with their children. The company is winning because you are valuing your employees in a different way and getting a level of gratitude likely that you're like, oh, I get to work, do this thing that I'm good at and be a parent and support our family. Like it feels like this is just the possibilities here are so much better. And like I'm on a train commuting, I'm in 9 to 5 and I commute back and I see my kid for 1 hour a day. It's tough.
It's so tough. Like I think about the women who do it and then I want them to just say and own, this is how work works for me right now and my family. I need this level of help and support and I'm showing up present in all these different ways.
Yep. Yeah.
And I accept that like this might change because it is hard. It's really hard. And if they commit to that, if their work gives them a pay that they need or like a level of fulfillment that lets them show up for their family better, I think where it gets dangerous is when we think one choice is better than the other.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's certainly choices that enable and empower more connection in the home or more pay. You know, you're always optimizing for different things and it depends on the family system, which looks very different for different families.
Sure. So I know that you took your first sacred pause when you hiked in India for 4 weeks. You were out of high school or out of college?
Out of high school. So I had a very tumultuous, I had my like free spirit days, probably why I shut that shit down from 16 to 17. Because we were talking about, my way of fitting was to dismantle every trope. I was all about dismantling tropes, even then, about being Indian. And at the time, you know, Indians were associated with sort of a nerdiness and like a mouth. So I like literally deliberately failed in math. Like I let myself fail publicly. And I was a real mess. I mean, I still, again, closest friends from home. I was a mess.
Where'd you grow up? What's it?
Acton, Massachusetts.
Okay.
It's like a little farm town outside of Boston. And I came downstairs the morning of graduation and I said, if I go to college, and I had already been accepted, I will end up worse. I will just end up worse than I am now. And my parents, God bless them, said like, yeah. And I said, I don't know what came over me. It must, because it was the most wise, mature thing I'd done in 2 years. I said, if I go back to India, I won't have to try so hard to fit. So I'll be able to figure it out, which is ironic. That's like what I said about my son, right? And
what is what you said about your son?
That when rocking with him in that chair, I said I now belong. I don't have to try so hard. I can sort of return to what really matters. So yeah, I went. My time there started with that trek in the Himalayas, which is like I'm not outdoorsy, so that was really out of sorts. And then
were you by yourself?
So I went on. I don't know how I found this through, and my uncle, who was also on sort of a spiritual journey. It was a group of elderly people who were on a religious pilgrimage. I'm not religious, so this was, but they, it was basically a trek through the Himalayas to find the religious sites, which is how I found myself to Rishikesh, which we talked about before.
Yeah.
You can imagine what a sight this was to see.
What year is this?
This was 2002.
Wow. Okay.
Right. And so then I had an aunt who had a teaching position, and she invited me to volunteer teach. And I taught in Delhi and Bombay for the remainder of the time.
What did you teach?
Creative writing. And then I came home, and I felt very clear, but a lot of that clarity got funneled toward my professional life and professional accomplishment. I think there was a lot of wanting to sort of prove myself again, and wanting to sort of rectify what had happened in my teens, And so there was a lot of competitiveness, wanting to win, wanting to get the badges.
Do you think that you would have felt empowered enough to take the power pause had you not had those badges or awards?
It's so hard to know. I think it gave me a real sense of security.
Yeah.
I do think I felt really like I felt a lot of trust in my creative capacity, my professional capacity. But one thing I will say is I think the average woman having children right now is the age of 30, which I think skews much higher on the coast, right? Like you're not having, you're like a child bride to have a kid at 30 in the city. And so they've clocked in, they've established career and work experience, right? So they're not tripping and falling into the well of motherhood. I also think they're operating in such a different time. Even in the 8 years I've been doing this, it's the
mothering or this
work, the work of this movement. It's the landscape has changed so much with freelance and flex work and consulting and Squarespace and Instagram and the digital tools and technologies, right? They're not sitting
and the pandemic of like working from home.
Right. So there's just more options on the table. So I think I want women to feel that sense of trust and confidence that there's a language now, hopefully in the book, that they find to be able to navigate this stage with more confidence and sort of strategically mitigate. But there's also just more options on the table to stay connected.
Yeah.
And they're entering with a foundation of experience that can't be discounted. My experience happened at that time, especially to give me like a certain level of confidence that I was able to bring with me.
Do you have any thoughts? And if this is not something you spend time thinking about, no need to answer.
I'm so happy to overthink anything. That's like really what my skill is. Like I would say
Girl,
that I'm a professional overthinker. Yeah.
Well, if you ever want Ziva, just let me know.
Yeah.
It will help. But do you have any thoughts on how AI will impact motherhood and the power pause, the ability to take the power pause and work less? Just curious.
More efficiently. I will say that I think AI is a testament to how quickly things can change when you've been out of the workforce. A big part of what I want to do with my community and platform now is continue to provide education for women while they're out of the workforce, AI being one, right? Like how do we just stay like generally adaptive? Because we have access to all these things we can do in 10 minutes. I think AI lets us be able to do jobs more efficiently. So hopefully puts more flexible work options on the table. But I think that the one thing we can't do is shy away from it. We need to know it. We need to understand it. Like I think we as women often, especially someone like me, like will say, I still want to plan that birthday party. I want to plan that trip because there's a lot of like ego in it. We get time back if we just do that. Like let's lean on it.
Yeah.
Let's also let AI be shaped by women and our minds and our voices so that we don't have yet another tool that's powerful made by men.
And war machines. Like it's mostly the military complexes that are spending the most money in training up the AIs.
Yeah, so let's put our poetry in there. Let's put our meditations in there. Let's upload, just like make it a little softer.
Yes. I just was speaking with my friend Sarah Jenks the other day, and she's like, yeah, my robot is now an oracle. I've trained her to be an oracle. And so truly, she's like, and it's like oracular, can tune into other consciousness, can channel different frequencies. And I am currently of the ilk of that. It's not artificial intelligence, it is amplified intelligence, and it actually is this intermediary between us and the divine. Just like the internet was sort of always here, and then we tapped into this way to be in this network, mycelial network across the planet. It's like now that is getting amplified, and we have this intermediary between collective consciousness of all that is and us as humans. And I am really fascinated with the possibilities of it. My friend Jerry's actually feeding it indigenous wisdom because he believes that if we can get enough indigenous wisdom into AI, that it will come to the realization that it's there is no such thing as a zero-sum game, that there is no such thing as a winner take all, that it has to be a win-win-win. And if the AI has the philosophies input into it that are the healthier philosophies for the planet and for humanity, that it will get there faster.
I wonder also how it impacts our sense of scarcity, right? Because it only succeeds if everyone puts their stuff in. And so we stop being so possessive about our ideas.
Yeah, I think we're going to a post-IP world.
And our things, and we start... And by the way, that's very challenging to someone like me. I think I said it earlier in the beginning. I love credit.
Yeah.
Which is hard when your job is putting language out into the world and you want it to run. You want it to run because then it opens up more language for more people, right? And so AI in general challenges us all to rethink it all. So that's where I feel, that's why I think we're re-examining kind of like post-pandemic, everyone calls it the great resignation, and I much preferred the great re-examination, right? I think it was the re-examination of it all.
Yeah, reprioritization.
Yeah. And that's the only reason, you know, you asked like 8 years. Yeah, I've been working on this in a different form, right? A small little blog and a small Instagram alongside my kids. It was a project I was building until I was ready post-pandemic to put it out in the world and get sort of the receipt that I needed. But that was because of the great re-examination, because culture was ready.
Well, it feels like there's some parallels here with the resistance or shame or internalized capitalism that would keep someone from meditating. Of like, meditation is a power pause, right? Like, I mean, you close your eyes, you give your body deep rest, and then you open them up and you have more capacity, more consciousness, more rest, more energy available. Yeah. And this idea like, oh, not that parenting is a pause per se, but it is a pause from the things that we value. So I'm just curious if you could speak to that, of like, what is the similarities of like resistance that people might feel towards meditation and resistance that people might feel towards taking a power pause?
It's soft things, right? Like, we live in a world that is measured by very hard metrics. Meditation and parenthood are both very soft metrics. They're behind the scenes things. They're not visibly forward moving. And so I think that we are doing a rewriting of value of those things. We're doing an expansion of our like metrics of success, right? You see it, this like softening into, well, maybe success, yes, includes how comfortable our life is and how much money we make, but maybe it also looks like what our kids are going to say at our eulogy. Right? Like, maybe. Yeah. And then how does that,
I just, on this retreat I was just at, I was like sort of like standing in as someone's mother who was passed. So her mother's dying. And I was like, what if you do your eulogy right now? And I like laid down, because we were sort of embodying things for each other. So I had my eyes closed, my arms crossed, and she's doing the eulogy for her mother. And the whole time I'm imagining my son doing my eulogy. And like, what is he going to say? And like that, talk about a
no
reprioritization.
Wonder you held him. Right? No wonder you held him. I think it goes through my mind all the time. How will they remember me?
Yeah.
And that's presence.
Yeah.
I think. But I think that's very similar in that way of this. I think we are softening into new metrics of success. It's why meditation, it's why recalibration in our own work and family is happening in this moment. But the resistance comes from it not being visible, it not being forward moving, it being, you know, we sort of put it in the bucket of like a soft life.
Yeah. And also, how much of it is just a trauma response that we're just like, I got to work all the time. Like, is it just us afraid of feeling our feelings? And if I just keep going forward motion, then I don't have to feel.
I think we were also raised in it. One of the best podcasts I've heard this year that explained intensive parenting was Claire Kane Miller on The Daily for New York Times, broke down where did this all come from? Like, why are we so much more conscious as parents, right? Like, we're getting a lot of wrath for it. Like, oh, this generation is like taking part. But is it a trauma response, or is it that generation had to work so hard from an economic perspective, right? And they taught us that there was only so many options like available from a work perspective. And now we're sort of redefining the value of education. We're just in a moment of when you're re-examining, it's just such hard work. Mm-hmm. But a lot of it is our parents were operating in a very different modality around survival and economics. And we are operating in a different one. Mm-hmm. And I think because of that, we just we're resistant to part with what we were taught, but we know that it's not working right now, that we're ready for something else.
And for those of us where that is the reality, I mean, there's that adage of like, my grandfather was a farmer, so my dad could be a banker, so I could be an artist. Right? And my grandfather literally was a farmer, and my mother was a banker, and I was on Broadway. So it's like, that is in my lineage. So it's like, if that is your reality, if you do have that privilege, right, then the whole thing about privilege is choosing how you want to spend it, right? It's like, and what a privilege to choose to spend it with your children if you have them.
And not punishing yourself for that.
Yeah. And I think this is my work of like not expecting myself to be able to do both full-time, 10 out of 10, the best in all directions.
For right now.
Yeah, for right now. Yeah. So is there anything you wish that I had asked you? Anything you wish that we had dove into?
No. You know, I said to you before we started, I think there's so much. I had to do a lot of work in this book writing process around research and data to substantiate it, to make it be taken seriously. Mm-hmm. You know, because so quickly stay-at-home motherhood will be written off as like, oh, that sweet thing over there.
Cute.
But I really think you got to the heart of it, which is where I like want it to live, is that this is a conversation that, yes, there are a million scripts and there's so much data and there's so many great anecdotes of women on how they navigated this. But the heart of it is that you get to choose what's for right now. And it doesn't make ambition. I once looked it up. It's the determination to do things. That's it. With no clarification as to like what the things are. We're going to, if we're lucky, we get to do a great many things that we care about over the long game of life. And so if you're choosing that, if you're aligning that with what really matters and you're trusting yourself, then that's ambitious.
And if you choose to have children, like, why not choose to prioritize that chapter, that relationship? And not that there's any shoulds, but like, what does success look like for you? And that's how I define manifesting, where it's just like, hey, manifesting is like the conscious creation of a life that you love.
Yeah.
And oftentimes people just don't even ask that question of like, what would I love? And I love that you did that. Like, okay, this 5 years, this pause, this chapter, who am I at the end of this? Right? Really, really beautiful, really profound. Well, I'm sure that people are going to want to, I mean, besides getting the book, The Power Pause, which obviously, hopefully everyone is going to devour and read immediately. It sounds like you have a community. Where can people find you?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram. So I share my overthinking real-time stream of consciousness there.
What's your Instagram?
It's Mother Untitled.
And what does that mean? What's Mother Untitled?
So it's funny you should say that. So I don't know when this episode is dropping, but I will tell you that it's about to just be my name, Neha Ruch. Okay. Mother Untitled was when I started this as a project in 2017. It was because I was dealing with the parting of my title and my worth.
Oof.
As well as this sort of black and white title as a stay-at-home and working mother that didn't feel like it fit.
Yeah.
And it had so much meaning, but you know this in marketing, right? We started this conversation there. That in the end, you have to give things something that people very quickly understand and can spread. And the Power Pause has spread. Mm-hmm. So everything is about to be wrapped as a May under the Power Pause umbrella. So if you go to motheruntitled.com or Mother Untitled on Instagram, you can find free resources, which I tell everyone, if you don't have access to the book, there's so much coaching and flex jobs available and toolkits and scripts and experts that you can tap into at any given time to help you walk through the stage with confidence. But yeah, it's all going to live under the power pause soon.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Side note, I'd love for us to talk about maybe bringing Ziva Kids into this community. I have like an amazing kids meditation training we did with Sesame Street and Harvard Child Psychologist. And I have a puppet named Z Bunny. And it's like for ages 4 to 14. And it's so good. And it's just sitting there. I'm like, I just want kids to have it. And I think it's such a tool for families to be able to have a shared language around emotions and feeling their feelings.
And making room for the feelings and
Yes.
facing them. And, you know, I think we have a way of teaching our children now that these things are important.
Yeah.
Like, I think we're teaching ourselves
Yeah.
that these things
We
are
do
important.
it first. We model it.
Right.
Uh-huh.
My kids meditate. So I told you this beforehand, but I have not, my practice is very truncated. It's under, like, literally I filter for under 6 minutes, and I'm highly visual. So it's a chakra meditation, which is why the opening meditation for this was so great. But my kids will often sit with me. So it's very imperfect, right? They're just like literally lying there next to me. And I figured it out. Like, that's how I get it in.
Yep.
It doesn't look the way other people, like, I aspire for the mat and the, you know, the seat, the floor cushion. And then I realized that there's no space for it in my room. But I think bringing it to our children is such a gift. So thank you for that.
The fact that you're doing it together is already so many gold stars, and it looks how it looks. And just if you ever want some support, Ziva, you can do in a chair, in a couch, back supported. It's like the lazy meditation. Your kid can do it with you. So like, anyway, we'll chat. But yeah. I just want to say thank you for not only writing this book, but for being a living embodiment of choosing, of accepting your choice, of very gently and ferociously protecting your boundaries in a way that is so sexy and graceful. And also for empowering so many people to ask the question, like, what does a power pause look like for me? And I really appreciated this nuance and calibration. It doesn't have to be on or off, white or black. It doesn't have to be forever. That it's right now. Yeah, really, really beautiful.
Yeah, our work is so symbiotic in that way. I don't know if I'm using the word symbiotic right. All right, we'll just look into that another day.
We'll look into another day. I don't know.
You got the point.
Yeah, like harmonic?
Harmonic, there we go. Yeah.
Symbiosis would be like feeding each other, which maybe soon we will be.
Yeah, maybe soon. Maybe
right now
I was
it feels
manifesting.
harmonic.
There we go. There we go.
Oh, sweet friends. I hope that you enjoyed this conversation as much as I have. If you have found a level of freedom, a level of empowerment, a way that you can start to make choices for yourself and really own them, to take your own power pause, let us know. You can screenshot this and share it on Instagram. I'm at Ziva Meditation. She's at
Mother Untitled for
Mother
now.
Untitled, but soon it's going to be
Neha Ruch.
Neha Ruch. We're going to put all those links underneath here, and go get this book, The Power Pause. She's brilliant. It's brilliant. You're brilliant. Let's be brilliant together. Let's manifest the way that we want to parent and the way that we want to balance our dharma with our parenting with grace and ease and choice. I love you, and I will see you next week on Why Isn't Everyone Doing This?